Yeah, I hear you. Hi, everybody. We're just getting our stuff synchronized here. Welcome to episode 112 of Carmela's Wrestling Radio Relived with my special co-host, Rich Swartz. How are you, dear?
I'm good, Carmela. How you doing? Thanks for having me
I'm
on again.
Oh, absolutely. I'm good too. Do you know, according to Chuck Langerman, you were our first fan to be a co-host on the show. How about that?
Yes, that happens to be true. I do recall that.
Yep, he sent us a whole bunch of stuff. We got a lot to read today. Um, but we have a whole lot to talk about today. But first and foremost, what I want to do is dedicate this show tonight to the untimely passing of a really good friend of Wrestling Radio, a really good friend of everybody in the world, the vice president of Cauliflower Alley, and our dear friend Rich Engling. God bless him. We heard news this week that he had passed away. Naturally, apparently he wasn't sick. He had just gone to bed and not gotten up in the morning. Um, it hit us hard. It hit all of us hard. He was the epitome. I mean, the epitome of what Cauliflower Alley stood for. Cauliflower Alley is an organization, and Jeannie and I did a lot of podcasts about it. He was on our podcast several times, also with Brian Blair. And Cauliflower Alley is an organization that was created to help wrestlers and people in the wrestling field who have difficulties in their life and who have difficulties, money wise, health wise, etc. And it's so sad. I don't even know what to think about it. We're going to be doing a tribute to Rich next week. I believe it's on Wednesday. So next week we're having two podcasts. One on Wednesday night as a tribute to Rich Engling. We're going to have with us Jeannie, Joel, um, Jennifer, his daughter, for sure, Barbara Goodish, Darla Skaggs, and Brian Blair. So it's going to be a really big event, and I wish everybody would come and watch it. Okay. In the meantime, we got a lot to talk about tonight, and this show is dedicated to Rich. Um, so let's talk real quick about let's get the AEW out of the way for now because I want to talk about what happened last night at Dynamite. Um, I'll tell you, I gotta love Will Ospreay. I just gotta love Will Ospreay. In the beginning, the conflict between Kenny Omega and MJF was pretty good. Did you see that part, Rich?
Yeah, I did. And when they were going to start the show off with the contract signing, and then all of a sudden we had that big surprise, which was totally unexpected.
Well,
Chris
elaborate a
Jericho.
little bit. Yeah, I, I
Well,
don't.
Chris
Go ahead.
Chris Jericho looked great. Chris Jericho looked great. I mean, he really slimmed down. He really uh, got in shape. Can't say I'm wild about the mustache, but
Rich, we can't hear you right now. I don't know if there's something going wrong with your phone or what you have your laptop, but you're coming in and out a lot. Say something.
okay. How about now?
All right, we're good. I think his face looked a little bit
Hello,
different.
hello.
Hi, can you hear me? Can you hear me? Rich,
Yeah,
you can hear me.
yes,
Well, say something. Okay.
yeah. I can
Now.
hear you.
All right, thank you.
Yeah,
All right. So anyway, like I said, I think his face looked a little made up, a little bit like he had something done, maybe some Botox, maybe something like that. He looked a little bit more Chris Jericho chisely itch. I don't know. Something about his face. I wasn't
yeah.
crazy about
Something
that.
like that. Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
but
no, something looked weird.
something about his appearance and his face didn't look right. It didn't look right to me. I don't know, but it was funny when Kenny Omega and MJF were going against each other and arguing, and Kenny Omega said about all the new plugs that MJF has in his head. I think that was hysterical. I think that was
Yeah.
funny as hell. Yeah. I think it's going to be a good match. I really do. I think it's going to be a good match. And then also all of a sudden out of the clear blue sky, here comes the bastard pack and Will Osprey. Will Osprey comes out doing his thing, holding his little thing in his head, and this and that. All of a sudden, Pac comes out and beats him up, and then he just attacked his neck like right from the start. He just bang, 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 bang. He would not let his neck go at all. And what did you think of that? Did that bother you at all?
No, it didn't bother me at all. But what bothered me was once again the Death Riders coming out. Moxley, I don't like Moxley, right? So 3 weeks ago he's feuding with the Callis family. Like now everyone thinks he's going to turn face, and then all of a sudden now he's back to the thug of
Yeah,
Moxley.
yeah. But it was weird because I love Will Ospreay. Everybody knows that, but um, I think he oversold a little bit the neck injury stuff. I just think he went a little overboard on that. I try to be fair, even though I love him. It was like I don't know. Then all of a sudden he'd get up and he was fine. So it was a little
Yeah.
bit much on that aspect. Um, I don't know. I think it's going to be a good show. I do think that it I don't know. I think it's going to be a great show. I like what I saw last night. I like AEW because to me, okay, last night was a lot of wrestling. It was a lot of wrestling. And it wasn't like in the WWE sometimes it's more pomp and circumstance, it's more glitz and glamour, it's more conversation than it is actual wrestling. But there was all wrestling there last night, and I did like that a lot. How did you feel about that, Rich?
AEW has really, in the last couple of months, improved to the point that they're having their shows in smaller venues. And because of the smaller venues, they're packing the crowds in. And the crowd, in my opinion, when I'm watching it, the crowd is what makes the wrestling or what makes the show. And they've really stepped up their game overall with the wrestling itself. So I would agree with you.
Yeah, they did really well. All right, so now I don't know, like I'm really excited about this. Do you think that MJF is going to lose the belt to Kenny Omega?
No, no,
No?
I don't think so. I think MJF is going to hold the belt for a while. And when we talk about Chris Jericho really getting into shape and really looking great, so does MJF. From when he was there the last time, he's really gotten into great shape too. So he's really toned up, and I don't see him losing the belt anytime soon to anyone, to be quite honest with you.
Well, I'm thinking, okay, I agree with what you're saying, but I'm also thinking that Kenny Omega is like he's back, he's pushing hard, he seems to be a little bit better with his stomach and all that stuff. Um, so I don't know. He is part of the company as far as being able to tell and do things and everything else. But I think he wants to stay around for a while, and maybe it'll be a short-lived title change. I don't know. I would like to see Kenny Omega get it. I really would, but I love MJF too. It's a toss up. It's kind of hard going on between the two of them. I'd like them both. I really do. I think it's pretty cool. I think that, and I have to tell you this. I have diverticulitis myself, and I have never experienced. I mean, I've hit my stomach a million times or banged into things, or I've never gotten an actual real punch in the gut. I got to be honest about that. But I've never had that kind of pain from impact to my stomach or anything like that, which I don't know. I guess some people do have it. I don't get that. Um, but I think it's going to be a good show. I don't know. I think I might actually watch a pay-per-view. I don't know. We'll have to see. I have to see if I can get Jeannie on board with that one. Are you going to watch a pay-per-view at all?
No,
No.
no, I'm not. No, I'm not paying $40.
Oh no, I'm not either. I'm going to see if my friend will let me use their sign-on so that I can watch it. That's
All right,
right. I
well,
said it. I made it public. Okay. Go ahead.
all
What?
right. That's a different story. All right.
Yeah, but you're paying ESPN, aren't you, for WWE?
Well, what's funny is that through my Xfinity Comcast service,
Yeah.
they're now offering the ESPN app for free as part of what I'm already paying. So now I'm getting ESPN, which is, now like a $40 a month value. I'm not paying any extra for it. This happened like a month ago.
But can you get the WWE pay-per-views? Because what I tried to do was I tried to subscribe for just ESPN2 or whatever it's called. Even if you're a subscriber, you still have to pay for the pay-per-view. So I don't know if how that works with you.
I tested it out, and they had a replay of Elimination Chamber, and I was able to get it. It's
Okay.
called ESPN Unlimited. So I mean, I haven't tested it out for live, but they were offering Elimination Chamber as a replay, and it was free.
Okay. All right. All right. So let's talk some WWE. You told me via email or via text that you had a no, wait a minute. Before we get into WWE, that you had some kind of an option or some kind of an idea for Will Ospreay, was it, or in somebody in a no, for Randy Orton and
Yeah, for
Cody?
Randy Orton,
Okay. All right. What is it?
I had a prediction.
Okay, go ahead.
So after watching Raw on Monday night and Stephanie coming out and the whole Cody bit, which in my opinion was unnecessary, but I think it's leading to an angle. And after watching that, I came up with the prediction that Stephanie is going to interfere in the match, and she's going to turn on Cody, and that's what's going to help Orton win the belt. And now we're going to see evil Stephanie again.
Well, yeah, that's a good prediction because I don't like Evil Stephanie. And when she came in Monday night and she did that thing with her arms and swinging and all that, I knew right away. But the funny thing is, she said something about her grandfather made Madison Square Garden. He did not.
Right.
Okay. He didn't make Madison Square Garden. Bruno made Madison Square Garden. Okay. Bruno was the one who sold it out 100 and something times. It wasn't Vince McMahon. It was Bruno. If Bruno wasn't on the show, it would have never sold out that many times. It was a very highly Italian area. It was a very highly Catholic Italian area. And he sold it out, period. It wasn't anybody else. You could put as much money as you want into a building, and that's fine. But you don't have the talent to come in there to draw the people in. It's not going to work. And that's what Bruno did. So, Stephanie, I think you were wrong. Also, there's something going on with her face, too. She's got like her cheeks are starting to become like really puffy, like those people that always get that face stuff done. And I don't know. She's not, to me, she's not as attractive as she used to be. Her eyebrows got real thin. I'm a hairdresser. I notice this stuff, so I can't help it. Okay. But I don't like her being involved. It has remnants of Vince McMahon. And he's not supposed to be involved, but I guess he is still. And they're saying that there's all these rumors going around that he wants to rebuy WWE back again. But I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I don't like her being in there because it just brings me back to the old wrestling sometimes with some of the stuff Vince used to do. And I think that was a cool thing when she said to Cody, you're not your father. And he goes, but neither are you. I thought that was pretty cool. That I don't think that deserved a smack, but I think it was pretty cool. Now, the funny thing is, I got to point this out. Maybe it's the hairdresser. I don't know what it is. But did you notice when CM Punk threw Roman Reigns over the ropes? And then he, like gave him the drop. Roman Reigns was on his stomach. Okay. And again, this is stuff I noticed. He went up like this and he put his hand on his head, took out the rubber band, because his hair was starting to fall out. And then he goes like this and just messes his hair to make sure that it was okay while he was down getting his, after he just got kicked in the face, it was so funny. Okay. Because he was worried about that ponytail, getting that rubber band out. And he was worried about making sure his hair was that is so funny that Roman Reigns was that vain in that moment. I don't know if you noticed that.
You missed that. Yeah, I missed that part.
Yeah, I'm telling you, everybody, if you didn't see it, watch it again, okay? And look for that part after he gets thrown out of the ring. Again, this is just stuff that I noticed. I try to watch it very clearly. Um, we have to say hello to people, by the way. I just forgot about that. We have to say hello to our regulars. We have to say hello to um, Jeannie. Of course, we miss you. We love you dearly. Jeannie will be back, by the way, for the next 2 weeks. The next 2 weeks, we're having two podcasts. The one next week is going to be for Rich Engling. Jeannie will be here for that. The other one, the following week, we have a Joey Corrado. He's an independent promoter. So Jeannie will do that one with me as well. So she'll be back to do those. And then once we're done with WrestleMania, she'll be back again. So we want to say hi to her. We want to say hi to Michelle. We want to say hi to Mike. We want to say hi to John, my little Johnny. He's so sweet. We want to say hi to my David. We want to say hi to Hector. We want to say hi to Dave Shapiro. We want to say hi to so many people who are watching the show and who send us their name. Can't forget Douglas. And of course, we can't forget Chuck Langerman. God bless him. Chuck is like the on-board man. I'm telling you, this guy is like always on top of things. So anyway, let's get back to the wrestling. Tell me what you think now about CM Punk and Roman Reigns. Who do you think's going to win that rather?
I still think CM Punk's going to win. Roman Reigns is still part-time. I think I don't see him coming back full-time, and I don't see Punk losing the belt. I don't know that it's going. Well, and at first I was going to say I'm not sure it's going to be clean. The more I think about it, there may be interference. Usos may come out. I think at the end of the day, I think Punk's going to do a go to sleep on Reigns, and he's going to pin him.
I have a feeling that there's going to be a turn where Roman and Jay are going to go at it for some reason. I believe that there will be interference like you do. I have a feeling that something's happening between Roman and his cousins. With CM Punk, I think that's going to, I agree that I think CM Punk will win. However, Roman's had the belt before as a part-timer, where, the big rule that only applies to certain people is if you don't defend the title within 30 days, they can take it away from you. But it doesn't apply to Roman Reigns. It doesn't apply to a few people like Brock Lesnar. Okay. And speaking of Brock Lesnar, here we go again with the big confrontation between Brock Lesnar and Obafemi in the ring, and going back and forth, ready to kill each other. And of course, then Triple H jumps in, and of course, one man, 9 million security guys, okay, can't separate them. But of course, Triple H comes in just like this and he separates them, okay? I do believe that Oba's going to win. Of course, I want Oba to win. But I think when you look at Obafemi and you look at Brock Lesnar, you see almost a young Brock Lesnar there, but Oba is full of vim and vinegar. He's like he's so ready. He's so right for this. I do see Brock as potentially starting to move his way out, maybe getting closer to retirement. I don't know, but I do want Obafemi to win. What do you think?
I'm still going with what I said to you last week. I think it's going to be one of those real quick 30-second, 2-minute matches where Brock puts him over real quick, like he did that time with Goldberg. I don't think it's going to be a long match at all. And I think that is probably right now the most effective way to really build Obafemi and really put him over strong, is to make it a quick win, especially over somebody like Brock Lesnar.
Yeah, I think Oba really needs to be put over. It would be such a shame to have Oba come into the top roster and then, have him not perform well. I think that would be bad. I wouldn't like that at all. What do you think is going to happen with the women's championship? With no, not the women's championship, the Intercontinental with Becky Lynch and AJ Lee.
Hmm. So that's one we haven't discussed before.
No, we
Um,
haven't.
I think AJ Lee retains. Becky doesn't need a belt. She's a great mouthpiece. And you know what? Her current persona is probably one of the more entertaining personas, in my opinion, that she's had over her career, that I've seen her in different stages of her career. She's really actually very funny right now, and she's
She plays a
entertaining.
good crazy lady. Yeah, she
Yeah,
does. She does that. I like
yeah,
the way she, her hands shake and she's running around and really gets upset. I like it. She's good. She's good at what she does. There's no doubt about that. So you say AJ's going to retain the title. I
yeah.
don't know. I don't know. Think that I don't know that AJ's going to be around for a long time. I mean, obviously, if CM Punk leaves, she'll leave, but I don't know. I don't know. I would personally like to see Becky Lynch get it back. I would. I'm not a big, huge fan of AJ. Just never was. Okay.
Same here. Same
Yeah.
here. I never got her, or I never got what people saw in her.
Yeah.
Her finishing hold though is impressive. Um,
That widow's thing, spider web thing. Yeah.
yeah, that's an impressive finish, but there's nothing really that really excites me. That hop, skipping, and jumping to the ring is a turnoff to me. I think it's stupid.
Yeah, well, she originally had this persona of being crazy, insane, hopping around and all that. But now she's not crazy and insane because she went to therapy, but she's still hopping around. So I get it. I don't know. Um, what about Rhea? All right, we talked about this before, Rhea and Jade Cargill, but I'm thinking now it could go either way because um I'm not a fan of how Jade wrestles. We talked about that already, but I think it could go either way now. I don't know that I don't know if Rhea's going to get the belt. What do you think? Have you changed your mind at all?
No, so Jade's now teamed
Yeah, we're losing you again.
up with what, BFAB and
Rich, Rich.
Minchin to provide interference. I think Rhea's going to overcome the odds.
Okay,
Yeah,
you're
you
going
hear
in and
me?
out again.
Okay, how about
Now
now?
you're okay. Okay. Yeah, I don't know what's going on with Me Chin. She all of a sudden is like on the bad guy side, so I don't know. It's a whole different ball game there. But we'll see what happens. Let's talk a little bit about something that is not all WrestleMania. We have something that I wanted to announce. You were actually our first fan to be a guest on the show, and that's one of the tidbits that Rich or Chuck sent to us, and he sent us a bunch of stuff that has to do with our show. Okay, because it's 2 years now that we have this show, so I'm really proud of it. I'm really happy about it. Again, he reminds us that Brian Trammell said that a lot of podcasts today are good if they last 12 weeks. And we have overcome that by 100 episodes. So we're in 112, and I'm really proud of that. Um, Rich is making his fifth appearance on the podcast tonight. I bet, did you know that?
No,
Ah,
no, I
see,
did
you
not.
got to, I'll tell you, Chuck knows everything. Our very first podcast was March 16th of 24. I just wanted to throw a few things in there. Our first podcast was called It's Me Again. And that's what I wanted it to be called because I was having so much fun. We have questions. How about we go dive right into that right now? Because again, Chuck is like amazing with these questions. So let's go to the first one. The record for most WrestleMania matches is 27 by The Undertaker from 1991 to 2020. For the record, The Undertaker has a 25-2 record, losing only to Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns. Current WWE wrestler Randy Orton has had 20 WrestleMania matches. Of course, he will be wrestling Cody Rhodes at WrestleMania 42. Randy, who turned 46 years old yesterday, April 1st, has a surgically repaired spine. Do you think he will be able to break The Undertaker's record? That's a full question, Rich.
I think it depends on his health. I think it depends on how long he's around. I think if he's around for another, let's say 7 to 10 years, I think the answer would be yes. But if he's going to be around that long, I would also like him to see. I would also like to see him break Cena's record as
Yeah,
far as number of championships.
not for anything. I Cena's going to be the host of WrestleMania, by the way, but not for
Right.
anything. I think Cena's done wonderful things. I think he has impacted so many people's lives. He has done amazing things with the Make a Wish Foundation. He has done amazing things to, to move along in the society and all this stuff and to help people out and everything else. But there's something about, I just don't care for Cena. I never did. I just never cared for him. I think that a lot of what he has done to help people was uh, orchestrated by WWE, of course. But I don't know. Like, I'm not impressed. I'm not all excited and happy that he's going to host WrestleMania. So, um, I don't know. I don't. There's just like a lot of I don't know. But my back is surgically repaired. Okay. Now, of course, I'm not an athlete and I'm old, but I don't think I could do it. I don't know that Randy can do it. I don't know. I mean, in real life, I don't know that he could do it. Obviously, in a wrestling ring, it's predetermined, so they already know who's going to win. So we'll have to see and figure it out. Okay, it goes without saying that Vince McMahon Jr. is a polarizing figure. There's not much gray area when it comes to Vince. The majority of people either kiss his ass or despise him. As things stand now, what do you think Vince's legacy in the pro wrestling business will be? And what do you personally think of him, Rich?
I think his legacy in the wrestling business is permanently tarnished by the Janelle Grant lawsuit and all the stuff that came out. But I also think, conversely, that it will never be forgotten that he was a visionary and is primarily responsible for professional wrestling becoming this worldwide juggernaut. Personally,
Absolutely.
personally, I think from obviously I've never met him. All I've heard about him and read about him, I think he's one of the most horrible human beings on the planet.
I agree with a lot of what you just said. First of all, okay, I think that his reputation is tarnished because not only with the Janelle Grant story, but he has a huge reputation for being a pervert in a lot of different ways. Okay. But I do agree with you that he is the epitome of what wrestling has become. If it wasn't for him, I mean, I don't know whether it'd be a good thing or a bad thing, but if it wasn't for him, wrestling would probably still be in the territories, and it would not have gone global. The WWE, at least, would not have gone global. I think he has an incredible mind for business. I think he had an incredible mind for wrestling, um, and it's a shame. It really is a shame that his personal life got so out of control with perversion that it interfered, it crossed roads with his professional career. I have met Vince on several occasions. Um, my very first meeting with him was an argument. I said this on the one of the podcasts when my mom had passed away. We had tried to get multiple wrestlers to call her before she passed away when she was sick. And Bruno, of course, I couldn't get a hold of him myself because he was traveling like all over the place. And there were like no cell phones and stuff really back then. So we tried to get people who got people who got people, to contact him to find a way to get a hold of him. And Vince McMahon, my ex husband Paul knew a jeweler down on Jewelers Row in Philadelphia who knew Vince McMahon Sr. And he was supposed to get Bruno to call. And when Bruno finally did call, my mom had already been buried. She passed away and been buried. And I got very snarky with Bruno on the phone. He said, "Can I speak to Celeste?" And I said, "Yeah, go to the cemetery." I said, "That's where you can speak to her, you ass." And that was the end of it. I mean, we ultimately made up, of course, but it wasn't really his fault. He wasn't contacted. So when I went to see Vince Jr., I was in Hamburg when I met Vince Jr. And I said to him, me, I had to open my mouth, I had to say everything. I said, I think that your father stinks. He knew what was going on. He knew my mom was sick, and he didn't go out of his way to try to get a hold of Bruno fast enough. And he looked at me like, "What are you talking about?" I said, "You know what I'm talking about." And that was the first time I met him. And he was like, it was funny because presented this meek and mild type of guy when he first started out with his little yellow coat, and his little red bow tie or whatever. But he was not the nicest person, professionally or personally, but he did have a great mind, a great brain. And no, I'm not a fan of him personally at all. Okay, so I agree with you on mostly everything. Do you have any thoughts? This is a good one. Do you have any thoughts on the unsanctioned match at WrestleMania 42 between Drew McIntyre and Jacob Fatu? What do you think, Rich?
I think that I think it's a match that they just put together. Um, I think there is obviously a story behind it because Jacob Fatu interfered that caused Drew to lose the belt. But it's one of those matches that they've just kind of put together to make sure that wrestlers are on the card. We didn't talk about this, but like all of a sudden out of the clear blue sky, they've got Gunther against Seth Rollins. And what's that all about? Like, there's no backstory behind that.
No,
There's
there
not
isn't.
much, there's not much of a backstory with Drew and Jacob Fatu. There's an interesting podcast that Drew did yesterday. It's like an hour and a half, and he keeps talking about how he continues to get screwed over and how over the last 4 years. And you know what? I think there's a certain truth behind it. He was champion during the pandemic when there were empty arenas and there was that Thunderdome. And I really think they didn't give Drew a fair shake even after that happened. I don't really have any positive or negative feelings about that match. It's just They just put it together.
I think that Drew, okay, understand again, if WWE doesn't want you to say something, you're not going to say it. Okay, like happened with CM Punk and they turned off his microphone. With Drew McIntyre, his crybaby stuff is all approved. It's all okay. Sure. So I don't think that they really screwed him over. I think that they really pushed him because for a long time he did carry the company. And I think that they have a place for him. Maybe his time hasn't really come yet. I don't know. But I do believe that Drew will see a whole lot more of him down the road. I agree with you that this match looks like it was a throw-in. That like they needed to put more people on the card. There really isn't a big backstory to Fatu and Drew McIntyre either. It just, well, he interfered. Cody lost. He interfered. Drew lost. He interfered. Cody, I mean, if this was really that angry, if they were really that angry, Cody would have like fought him, went after him and all, more so than Drew McIntyre. So this is clearly a Drew McIntyre thing. I think that Fatu just needed a spot. I really do. As far as Gunther and Seth Rollins, yeah, because that's what they're going to say now. Well, Seth Rollins was medically cleared to wrestle, so they had to put him on somehow. Then it's going to start a rivalry with him and the Vision and all this other stuff. And then Gunther just came in because, again, it looks exactly like Gunther didn't have anything to do that night, and Seth got out of the ring. He was not really doing much of anything himself. Why not put them together? Why not make it look like there's some kind of feud that we never knew about? Like you said, there's absolutely no backstory to that whatsoever. So we'll see. We'll see how they're going to, I'm sure between now and WrestleMania, they're going to create something, but there's no backstory to it because they never really had interactions, between the two of them. So I don't know. Right. I don't know. We'll see. Let me see what else. It says, I agree 100% with Rich and Carmella that MJF is a great worker and a generational wrestler. Of course, the WWE would love to take him away from AEW someday after his present contract expires. Was his present skill with his present skill set, do you think MJF is more suited for WWE or AEW?
I think a skill set is set for either. And in WWE, um, they'd have to book them right, because a lot of times wrestlers go to the WWE that were hot in other areas, and they really kind of ruin their characters. So they'd really have to make sure that MJF had a character and an exposure similar to what he's got in AEW. I think at some point in time he will wind up in WWE. It's apparent he must have signed a contract to stay with AEW. There was talk, what, a year or so ago, and he was even making allusions to it that he would go to WWE with an AEW division. So there were probably some contract negotiations. Maybe there was some friction going on, and he wound up signing again with AEW. I think that I think if he's utilized properly in WWE, he could be a top superstar for years to come.
Okay, now I'm going to disagree with you on this one. I think he should stay in AEW. I think that, like you said, he was apparently going to go with WWE or in talks with them at one point. Clearly, something went wrong. Maybe they wanted him to do something stupid that he didn't want to do, or maybe the money wasn't correct or right in any way, shape, or form. But I think that MJF is the kind of person in the AEW, he's pretty much top dog in a lot of ways. In the WWE, he would have to be put behind so many people. He'd be behind Roman Reigns. He'd be behind Seth Rollins. He'd be behind CM Punk. He'd be behind Obafemi. He'd be behind Brock Lesnar. They're not going to take MJF and throw him right into the front because, again, there's no backstory. They have to create him. And I honestly think that the WWE would ruin him. They would destroy him. Same with Chris Jericho. So I heard rumors that Chris Jericho did not stay with WWE because Chris Jericho wanted a final run kind of thing, I guess, like John Cena had. And they wouldn't do that, number one. But number two, I think that apparently WWE wanted him to go out in a certain way that Chris Jericho didn't want to go out in. It was a humiliating way, and I don't know exactly what it was, but I'll see if I can find out. So no, I think MJF should stay in the AEW, just like Will Ospreay should stay in the AEW. I think that's best for them at this time. Never know what the future will hold, but I think at this time it's best for them to stay where they are. Okay. The legendary WWE Hall of Famer Ivan the Polish Hammer Putski had many memorable matches in Philadelphia, both at the Market Street Arena and the Spectrum. At the arena, he had a match in 1976 on Valentine's Day against Ernie Ladd and the Suitcase Incident, where the Valiant Brothers and Captain Lou Albano attacked him with his own suitcase. And at the now defunct Philadelphia Spectrum, he wrestled against the likes of Superstar Billy Graham, Ken Patera, a young Hulk Hogan, Sergeant Slaughter, Ivan Koloff, and Larry Zbyszko in a Texas death match. My question is, what match or angle do you remember as Ivan's best in the city of brotherly love? Rich?
When Superstar Billy Graham was champion, and that was 70, I'm trying to think, when did Bruno lose? 76, 70?
Something like that. Yeah, I'm not sure the
Yeah.
exact year. Yeah.
Yeah, so when Superstar Graham was champion, they had built up Ivan Putski right around that same time tremendously. And I remember going to the Spectrum, and the main event matches, the main event was Superstar versus Putski. And they had built up Putski so much at the time. I really thought that the way they had built up Ivan Putski at that time, that he was going to beat Superstar Billy Graham for the belt, and he never did. But that's probably my biggest memory of Ivan Putski back then. Was okay. I thought was I thought that he was going to win the belt back then, and he never did.
No, I think the only thing Ivan ever got was a tag team title with Tito Santana, but I don't think the WWE ever wanted to, or WWF, whatever it was, ever wanted to promote Ivan into anything more than just being this brute wrestler, kind of like an old school Obafemi or something to that effect. Today, everything, of course, is different. I'm going to be honest with you. Everybody who knows me knows my relationship with Ivan Putski. Okay. Everybody who knows me knows exactly what level Ivan Putski and I were, and in my opinion, are still on. Okay. I mean, he was like the love of my life, period. End of story. However, he could not wrestle. I'm going to say that. I did not think Ivan could wrestle. He was one of the ones that had two or three of the same moves, the Polish hammer, the what's the name, the arm across the neck, and it was all just muscle. That's all it was. I don't think that they ever wanted to do anything dramatic with him. A lot of the matches that I saw him against the Samoans, a lot of the matches that I saw with him and Ken Patera, with him and Ivan Koloff, all of that was, along with superstar Billy Graham, all of that was pretty much muscle matches, to just promote a muscle issue. I think out of all of them, I think the matches with superstar Billy Graham, I agree with you on that, were probably the best because Ivan actually liked those matches the best too with Superstar. He had a great respect for him and he liked doing the matches with Superstar. I liked it because there was a good bunch of animosity between them. A lot of the conflicts, the mic promos and all that were good, where Superstar called him Paduski and Ivan was like, all this, like, I'll get you. And it was all, he did that mostly with Superstar Billy Graham. And I liked it. I just liked it a lot. There was a lot, in my opinion, a lot more excitement in the matches he had with him. Okay. Love you, Ivan. Always will. Okay. Here we go. It has been said in pro wrestling business that 99% of all decisions are based on either money or ego or both. In your opinion, from what you know of AEW owner Tony Khan, is he more about inflating his ego or making his next billion? Rich?
Um, Tony Khan's father owns the Jacksonville Jaguars, and his father's a billionaire, which I guess by cause and effect, because Tony Khan's involved with the Jacksonville Jaguars, Tony Khan's probably very, very rich too.
Yep.
So he took a lot of daddy's money to create AEW, which, by the way, AEW was originally four guys who paid their own way to do a pay-per-view called All In back in
Mm-hmm.
Chicago and sold out in 1 hour. And then Tony Khan comes in and I guess buys them out, makes them EVPs, executive vice presidents, and creates this AEW. Tony Khan was a big wrestling fan since he was a kid. He was a big ECW fan. And I think that AEW to Tony Khan is like his plaything. And I think that he's a lousy booker. I think that he needs a professional booker, and because it's his plaything, and because it's kind of like AEW is his toy, and he can do whatever he wants with it. It's a privately held company, so nobody knows whether the company is profitable or not. I think for Tony Khan, it's a combination of ego and just, okay, daddy's, I can take daddy's billions and own a wrestling company and I can make it whatever I want because I'm a wrestling fan. I think he looks like with that wild hair of his. I mean, right? That's an owner of a wrestling company. I think his media scrums are awful and I think it's self promotion. And I'm generally, okay, I like a lot of AEW, but I'm not particularly a fan of Tony Khan.
Okay, Rich, tell us what you really think.
Well, yeah.
Okay. I'm going to tell you what I think. I think the biggest problem here is that Tony Khan is a fan. Joel and I had this conversation a long time ago, especially when he was promoting his one and done on May 3rd. Uh, a lot of, especially independent, um, not necessarily independent, a lot of up and coming, let's say, promoters or people like Tony Khan who wind up with a lot of money. All right. Um, Years and years ago, you had your own money, but a lot of people didn't have a lot of money. So you did what you could, and you did the best for the business at that point. It wasn't really about the money back then. Now it's, if you got money, like you said, just throw it around, throw some over here. I'll take some, but I think Tony Khan, Joel and I always used to talk about that. You should never promote as a fan. You should separate those things. When you're a promoter, you're a promoter. If you're a booker, you're a booker. If you're a fan, you're a fan. Obviously, every single one of us are fans. There's no lying about that. All right. But when you promote a show, you've got to do what's in the best interest of the fan and what is in the best interest of bringing money into the venue. Okay. Tony Khan doesn't necessarily and of course Vince McMahon too at the time, and also the WWE right now. None of them have to worry about bringing in money or not bringing in money to the point where they're scared. They don't worry about the fans. They don't worry about what's going on with what people think. They just want this promoted. They want it out there, and they want to make money on it. Yeah, but like in the WWE aspect, WWE is convinced that the fans, no matter how much the tickets are going to buy them. And unfortunately, up until now, every single year they did. People take their life savings and buy these dumb tickets. All right, but in Tony Khan's case, he did take the right way out. He did go into smaller venues. He did do the right thing. I think personally, and I don't know Tony Khan, I don't know a lot about him, but I think personally he does care more about what happens to the wrestlers in the regard of keeping them so that they will continue to do good for the product, to help promote the product. No, he's a terrible booker. I don't know if they have another booker. They should have another booker. Or they should have a booker that has nothing to do with Tony Khan. A booker and a promoter should be two completely different entities. And again, Joel and I talked about this even when we promoted our own shows. The booker is here, the promoter is here, and as they say, never the twain shall meet. Okay, the booker knows what he's doing, the promoter knows what he wants, and the booker does what the promoter wants. The promoter doesn't question the booker. It's the way it's supposed to be. All right. So I think Tony Khan runs it as a fan, because if you run it as a fan, too many emotions get involved. Your brain doesn't function on business. So I think that's his main problem. He runs it as a fan. But I do think that he has shown a little bit of caring about what the fans think by going into smaller venues and by his prices not being extra unbelievably exorbitant like the WWE. Because right now, WWE WrestleMania still has tickets available, which usually doesn't happen by this close to the event. So they still have tickets. I don't know that they're all going to sell out, although they probably will announce it as sold out, as a lot of places do, whether it's sold out or not. Oh, we have a sold out building, but not always is it sold out. So I don't know what the WWE is going to do with their empty seats, but I have a feeling they're going to have empty seats by WrestleMania as well. And I think Tony Khan is watching, and I think he's eventually getting a little bit better. I think the wrestlers that he has should be able to tell him what he's doing wrong. Now, whether he listens to him or not, that's a whole different cup of coffee. I don't know. But I guess we'll have to see.
Can
Go
I
ahead, what?
expound for a second? Can I expound about this topic for a
Absolutely,
second?
absolutely. Go ahead.
So first of all, as it relates to the smaller venues, maybe he was going, maybe he started with the smaller venues because when he was in the large venues, 3/4 of the arena was empty, and that was a horrible look on television. So if that's why he went into smaller venues, I think that was a smart move.
Right.
The other thing about Tony Khan is, and if this were, if anybody ever directed him to this podcast and said, "Oh, well, so and so saying so and so about Tony Khan," I would say, "Well, you know what, Tony? You hire Carmella and Richard as your bookers and see how quickly your product escalates, and then you start going into the bigger venues and start selling out. Okay, because yeah, we're fans, but we could separate the fan from booking the product right for the fan. He's booking the product for himself, not for
Well,
the regular fan.
what do you think WWE's doing? You think they're booking for the fan?
Absolutely not. But we're talking about Tony Khan right now.
I know, but still, I don't think
Yeah.
any of them. I don't think any of them, except some of the independents, book for the fan, and that goes for both entities.
Oh, totally agree. I mean, did Vince really book for the fan? I mean,
Vince
to an
Vince
extent, he
Senior.
did. To an extent, he did. But Vince Jr. always thought that he knew what the fans wanted.
I know, but Vince Jr. and Vince Senior always thought about the price. They always thought about the families. They really did. And Tony Khan seems to feel the same way. Now it's just money, money, money. They just want to make more money, and that's the end of it. So WWE, I think, is more into making the money than Tony Khan is right now. Again, I reiterate what I said before. WWE's been around forever. Tony Khan's organization has only been around for less than 10 years. So, to compare them, piece by piece is not fair. It wouldn't be fair to anybody. That would be like me starting a pro wrestling company and then comparing me to AEW. It's not fair. There's no comparison. Comparison of AEW to WWE right now, there's no comparison. And some people are very cold hearted about that because, yeah, WWE is wonderful. It's amazing. It's big. It's huge. It's rich. It's all this cool stuff. AEW doesn't have 50, 60, 70 years under its belt. So I'm not going to live that long, but let's see if maybe somebody lives that long and sees if AEW does get better or does better. I've also seen WWE venues that were covered in tarp and stuff like that. So it kind of goes both ways. But yeah, AEW does need to grow a whole lot more. That much I agree with. Okay. On Wednesday, March 25th, Carmella had a great post on her Facebook page about an interpromotional unification match between WWF's Bob Backlund and AWA's Nick Bockwinkel, which took place in 1979 at the Maple Leaf Gardens in Toronto. The historic match ended in a double countout. This was probably very wishful thinking on my part, but in your opinion, do you think there is any chance we will ever see the WWE and AEW do interpromotional unification matches in the future?
No, because WWE doesn't consider AEW any competition. So
Correct.
I don't ever see the two of them collaborating. And by the way, I mean Chuck has a great memory there. There was also the interpromotional match between Bob Backlund and Harley Race back in the 70s when Backlund was champion. And I believe that happened in Madison Square Garden. And that
Yeah.
was a no contest, that was a no contest as well. But that was also back in the territory days too. So there
Yeah.
was some cross promotional territory stuff that they did very sparingly, but they did do it once in a while.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. I don't think that that'll ever happen with AEW and WWE. I mean, if it would be with anybody, I would say New Japan. New Japan is like a huge, huge company. Maybe not as big as WWE, but way bigger than AEW. So I agree. I don't think that'll ever happen. On podcast 111, Abdullah the Butcher's name came up. Abby has never wrestled in the WWF, 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 WWE, WWA, No, I'm only kidding. Okay, but but he's in the WWE Hall of Fame. Go figure. Speaking of the WWE Hall of Fame, current motivational speaker Mark Merrow has been advocating for his ex-wife Sable to be inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame. In your opinion, do you think Sable, now known as Rena Lesnar, deserves to be in the WWE Hall of Fame? And do you think she will eventually get in?
I think there's a place for Sable in the Hall of Fame because she was an innovator. She was one of the first female wrestlers in WWE that posed for Playboy, and that was a big deal. And that created a lot of attention. and it also paved the way for others. Personally, I never really saw much of Sable as a wrestler. She didn't really do anything for me, but I would rather see them induct China first before they induct Sable.
I agree 100% that China should definitely be in. I think Stephanie is the one who's stopping it because of what Triple H did in this whole mess. I do not agree on anything that has to do with Sable. I don't think Sable was a good wrestler. I don't think Sable did anything for the wrestling community. I think anybody who looked like her could have gotten into Playboy, and I do not believe she belongs in the WWE Hall of Fame. I don't think she did anything worthwhile. You're not going to put China in. How could you? I could see other female wrestlers, like Lita and Trish Stratus and all. These were real wrestlers. They were good wrestlers. Sable couldn't fight her way out of a paper bag, even if it was wet and had a hole in it. Okay. So no, I don't think so. Not at all. I think her only part in professional wrestling was that she was physically built. She had big boobs. She had the long blonde hair, whatever. Okay. And she did a lot of that sexual stuff, which I think was unnecessary. But no, I don't think she belongs in the Hall of Fame at all. There's a lot of women, a lot of people before her that should go in the Hall of Fame. And that's just my opinion. Okay. Last question. Kayfabe is widely considered dead nowadays. 52 years ago, during the summer of 1974, I attended a WWF wrestling card at the Richmond Coliseum in Richmond, Virginia. The main event that night was Swede Hansen. Oh, God, I loved him. Swede Hansen against Chuck O'Connor. Oh, my God, I remember that. Oh, my God, and we going back, way back. Who would later change his name to Big John Studd. Chuck O'Connor won the match with a roll-up. On the way home, I stopped at a red light on Broad Street in Richmond. I glanced to the right, and there in a large car was Swede Hansen and Chuck O'Connor, who had just wrestled each other. At that moment in time, I realized for sure that pro wrestling was 100% staged. My question is, when did you first realize during your wrestling fandom that pro wrestling is a work and had no doubts that it was not a shoot?
So the first time I know I've told you this story. The first time I ever watched wrestling in surfing UHF channels is probably a 10-year-old boy
Okay.
watching it with my older brother, and we're surfing the channels, and there's this interview that Bruno's doing with Bill Watts, and Bill Watts is insulting Bruno, and then they're getting into a fight, and I remember saying to my brother, "How can he do that? That's so terrible," because he was insulting Bruno, and my brother says to me, "Richard, it's not real." I said, "What do you mean it's not real?" He goes, "It's fake." I said, "It is?" He goes, "Yeah." And again, from that moment, I was hooked. But I believe my brother. He said it. We said it wasn't real, and there was never any question, even remotely, from that point going forward, as to whether it was real or not.
Okay. I, to this day, will always say wrestling is not fake. It is predetermined. It is planned. It is rehearsed today, especially in WWE. But fake to me is they get hurt too much. You can't fake that. I'm sorry. That I don't go with the fake stuff. But I learned, if I could ever, I mean, if a 6-year-old can remember, when I was 6 years old, and I've told this story before, my father was friends with Two-Ton Tony Galento, who was a boxer, and he was a wrestling referee, I think, at one time. And he looked at the dressing room door, and he was very good friends with my dad, looked at the dressing room door and said to my father, "Back there, behind that door right there, is where all the decisions are made." And that, I mean, at 6 years old, I remember him saying it. I didn't know what it meant, but that was my first exposure to wrestling not being real. My full blown exposure to wrestling not being real is when the wrestlers started coming to my house when I was 6 years old. We had wrestlers, good and bad guys coming over. Some of my best memories were when Dominic DeNucci and Baron Cicluna came over my house after they had just wrestled. We had a ball with that stuff. I had good and bad guys in my house all the time, and that was my reality. And Dominic DeNucci was very, very, very adamant back then. All of them were, though, very adamant about kayfabe. And that's all he had to do was say the word. Like every time he had students around, like he had a lot of students at our house who slept over, and we would all talk because I was there and my ex-husband and blah, blah, blah. And then all of a sudden, like somebody would walk through, like one of the kids would come in or something, and you'd hear Dominic kayfabe, and everybody would just boom, shut up. And I said to Dominic, they're kids that no, no, no. You don't talk about wrestling in front of anybody unless they are part of the crowd or part of the knowledge of what's going on. They protected it. Kayfabe was protected years ago, almost with their lives. Okay, today, no, it's not. Today, it's a godforsaken tradition. It's over. It's done. It's no more. And I blame the WWE for that. I really do. I'm sorry. I don't care what anybody says. The fact that they put a thing called Unreal, the fact that they say that it's a performance rather than, I don't like it. I don't like any of it. I knew from when I was 6 years old, but that doesn't mean that I didn't go crazy and fall in love. Every time Bruno got beat up, every time he bled, I cried like a baby. My mother cried. Every time you thought a wrestler was getting ganged up on, I cried and my mother cried, but we knew it. We knew they were fine, but it's like with Will Ospreay last night, his neck wasn't getting hurt, but it looked so good. And you almost, even me, I'm after 62 years of being in the business, I was almost like, ooh, that looked like it hurt, but that bothers me. I think kayfabe should not have died. I think kayfabe, to an extent anyway, should still be involved. But it's almost like now you're slapping the fans in the face, and I don't like it. I don't like it at all. I just don't. Maybe call me old school, call me an old lady, call me whatever you want, but I don't like the fact that kayfabe has been opened like that. I just don't like it. So that's how I feel about that.
You want to know when kayfabe really, really died, in my opinion. And again, I agree with you. It was WWE
Hmm.
that exposed it. It was Vince that exposed it because they didn't want to call it a sport. He called it predetermined. He didn't want to call it a sport because he didn't want to be paying the fees to the commissioners, or I'm sorry,
Exactly.
to the commissions. But I remember in the 80s, right, when they first started doing the entertainment thing and the thing with MTV, and there was a big feud going on between Iron Sheik and Hacksaw Jim Duggan, and there was this whole big thing where they were arrested, pulled over because they were smoking pot driving together in a car, and
Yeah.
that made like national media coverage. That that was the death of kayfabe nationally.
Yeah.
Kayfabe
I think so.
and kayfabe was protected in the territories very well. And don't forget, we didn't have internet. We didn't have instantaneous results. I didn't even know. I remember, okay, Bruno's the world champion, right? And
Hmm.
all of a sudden, one week, Carmela, I'm flipping the UHF channels, and on channel 29, there was St. Louis wrestling, and there was this guy, the world champion. His name was Gene Kaniski, and I'm
Yeah.
saying to myself, wait a second, who's Gene Kaniski? I thought Bruno's the world champion. So they all had their own world champions in their own
Right.
territories. We had no idea what was going on in other places unless we're reading the wrestling magazines at the time. And let me just
Exactly.
and let me just clarify something I said. I know that wrestling is not, it's not fake. The word fake is not a great word to use. The word predetermined is the better word because, yes, even back then they got hurt. It was scripted, it was pre planned.
Right.
The word fake is not to insult anybody. It's just a synonym of not, or the opposite of not real.
Okay. But again, I understand what you're saying, but to try to explain it to the regular wrestling fan, is a little bit more difficult. And again, going back, understand wrestling was not always scripted. Understand that. It was always predetermined, yes. But
Yes.
back in the day, absolutely not. So many wrestlers have told us on this podcast and in other interviews that you basically learned how to wrestle in the ring. There was no schools, okay? So there could not be scripted. It had to be predetermined. Yes, John, you're going to win today. Dave, you win tomorrow. Okay, fine. But what do we do to get there? Like I said, told the story about Andre the Giant and Hulk Hogan. That was definitely not scripted. Okay, because Andre wasn't having it. And Andre was somebody that you just didn't want to mess up. And back in the day, you walked into this ring, you didn't know what was happening. A guy didn't come over to you and just like tap you when he hit you. He hit you. And it's your idea whether you're going to take that hit him back, how you're going to do it. That was all determined during the course of the match. Back then, there was no predetermination of any kind, or no, I'm wrong. There was no scripting of any kind. It was all predetermined. But that's what I wish sometimes that we would see today. I just wish once in a while that what we saw on TV was somewhat real. It just breaks my heart. It makes me angry. But in any event, that's that. I do want to say hello again to our friend Debbie. She's home from the hospital, as I said last week. No, she didn't come home till Monday, so I didn't say it last week. She's home from the hospital, and we wish her well. We love her dearly. She's going through some tough times right now, so prayers would be nice. I want to say hi to I say he's not my friend because I really do not like him, Rich Fittingoff. But I wanted to say happy birthday to his girlfriend Phyllis. She had a birthday yesterday as well. Happy birthday to Randy Orton, turning 46 yesterday. And I also want to reiterate, next week on Wednesday, we're having the tribute show to Rich England. Again, we cannot say enough about this man. You guys have heard us over and over again about Cauliflower Alley Club. To me, in my opinion, one of the greatest organizations in the world. This year is their 60th anniversary. And dear God, it's such a shame that he won't be there for that, but he will definitely be remembered. So they're trying to get some really big names out in that venue in Vegas for that. If you want to join, be a member, it's caulifloweralleyclub.org. Jeannie and I are members, and it's a great organization. They have helped so many people. Wrestlers today don't have as big a risk of becoming homeless and destitute and having a lot of problems with their health, because back then there really wasn't health insurance and stuff like that. A lot of those wrestlers from back in the day have lived horrible lives, very difficult lives. And today it's a whole different ball game. So please watch next week. It's going to be a really good tribute. Of course, Thursday, my buddy Rich and I will be back to continue our updates on WrestleMania, SmackDown, Raw, AEW, of course, and Collision. I want to keep doing that as well. If you guys have any questions about anything, my email address is 316carmela@gmail.com. Please let us know. If you want to be on the show as a guest, you're more than welcome. Please give us your comments about the show. I really enjoy reading them. Again, my best to everybody. Can't wait to talk to you guys again next week. Rich, as usual, thank you. You are a plethora. You and Chuck are a plethora of information, and I love it. I absolutely love it.
Can I say one hello?
Absolutely.
So, in the spirit of Passover, I would like to say hi to my brother, Rabbi Michael Swartz. Mike, I love you to pieces. You're the best brother anyone could ever ask for. So, happy Passover. That's who I'd like to say hello to. And before we close, if you don't mind, I would just like to reiterate: if this podcast somehow gets back to Tony Khan, Tony, you hook up Carmela, and then Carmela will get you in touch with me, and the two of us, then we can answer yes to the question, make us your bookers, and then maybe we can have a unification between WWE and AEW.
Well, it's funny. Whenever I put my podcast up on Twitter, I always at Tony Khan and at Will Osprey, hoping one day they'll look and maybe listen. Maybe I don't know, but I do want to say, and I want to say hi to Rich's lovely wife Harriet. I didn't call her Mildred today, okay, Harriet. And I want to say hi to all of our family and friends, and I want to wish everybody a happy Easter and a happy Passover to those of you who celebrate. If there's any other religion or faiths that anybody else celebrates, happy weekend, happy holidays, happy whatever it is to you as well. Just hope everybody is safe. Have a nice weekend, and we will see you next week. Love you, Rich. Mwah.
Love you too.
Okay.
Thank you so
Well,
much, man.
no problem. Thank you. Can't wait to see you again next week. Take care now.
Same here.